Riding a bike on the street can suck. Sometimes that is because of a crappy driver, but for the most part, it's a much bigger problem. This is an issue that has become rather important to me as I journey across the country. Bicycle safety and the role that bicycles play in regular transportation. There are a lot of issues here, so I'm going to stick with my experience, which is limited to the United States. We'll reference some other countries, but I've never biked abroad, so I can't really comment on it. As a quick review, here are my credentials on the subject. Beyond all the cycling that I've done in and around San Francisco, where I currently live, on this trip I've covered over 3,500 miles, and I've been in these cities. Some of them have the best cycling infrastructure in the country. Right away I can tell you that from my experience, the most frustrating, terrifying, astoundingly dangerous areas to ride a bicycle are in suburban towns outside of large cities. I don't know if this is a surprise to anyone else, but it sure shocked me. In my head, these are where families live, where they're safety conscious. Nope. In the country, the pace is quite relaxed, especially in areas like Wyoming and Nebraska, where there's just farmland as far as you can see. This is actually quite beneficial for bicycle safety, because drivers regularly encounter slow-moving vehicles like tractors and will patiently slow down. They give lots of room when they pass, and most people would actually wave and smile. It was all very friendly and comfortable. Even the semi-trucks, or lorries for you lot in the UK. In cities, everyone's in traffic. While they still may use their horns and yell, they knew what they were getting into, and they seem to accept it. More importantly, they are accustomed to sharing the road with cyclists, and there's often bicycle infrastructure. Painted bike lanes, at least. You'll likely not get the same wave and smile as you will in the country, but it's still a safe and comfortable experience. At least when compared to the suburbs. My god, suburban drivers are the worst! They are more in a rush than city drivers, drive way more aggressively, yet will take the time to slow down, roll down their window, and scream at the cyclists that they are unsafely passing. It's mind-blowing. This is where I encountered the vast majority of large SUVs and sparkling clean pickup trucks. I make that distinction because from my perspective, there's a noticeable difference between the people that actually use their trucks and those that just want a big mean truck with huge tires that'll never actually get used for their intended purpose. The trucks covered in dirt and gravel dust were, in general, patient and courteous, while the suburban cowboys would pull up on my rear tire, rev their engine, and then closely pass as they were yelling something unintelligible out the window. I like to think that they were just making louder engine noises so they could make themselves feel cool. So the suburbs were filled with vehicles that can barely fit in a lane, let alone share it. And the drivers didn't seem all that interested in sharing the road anyway. I have no idea if the psychology of suburban drivers is any different, but I do know that there is a major infrastructure and exposure issue. Cyclists are a rare sight in these towns, so no one's used to sharing the road, and bicycle-specific paths and trails are almost non-existent. This means that the lone cyclist trying to get from point A to point B among nervous or angry or ignorant drivers is not going to be very safe. And if you think any of their anger is warranted because bicycles slow everything down, I counted their wait times. It was usually about 5 to 10 seconds, the longest wait time being about 30 seconds. 30 seconds out of your day is worth nearly killing a stranger on the street. Something that I've observed is that most drivers are completely ignorant to the rules and regulations that govern bicycle traffic. They barely follow motor vehicle laws, so this doesn't surprise me. I've now gone through 13 states in the US, and before I enter a new one, I research the laws for bicycle traffic so that I can ride in a legal manner. I stay to the right, I signal my turns, I stop at lights and intersections, so it's quite frustrating to encounter people who get angry at me for this. Example, when I was in Indiana, a woman pulled up behind me, honked her horn, pulled up alongside me, rolled down her window, and started yelling. She told me to get on the sidewalk. Now, if she hadn't sped off and made a right turn with no signal, I would have caught up to her, and I would have politely explained that in most of Indiana, including the town that we currently were in, bicycling on the sidewalk is prohibited for anyone over the age of 13. This rule totally makes sense because it is actually more dangerous to ride on the sidewalk for both me and pedestrians. Okay, I understand that there are cyclists out there that don't follow the laws as closely as I might. This seems to get everyone fired up when one gets hit by a car, and is often followed with tons of victim blaming. They should have been wearing a helmet. Why were they in the road in the first place? They should have been more careful. I'm not sure why everybody gets all defensive. It's not like they're gonna get in trouble. If that woman in Indiana had struck and killed me on the road, she would have received a $1,000 fine. Cool. That's what I'm worth. And these reactions to me are beyond ridiculous. Drivers, you are wielding a 2-ton chunk of steel traveling at anywhere between 25 and 70 miles an hour. Cyclists are on a 20-pound bike wearing a foam hat. Now, I fully believe that cyclists should obey the laws just like anybody else, but hurling the car around should come with a sense of responsibility. When a car and a bicycle meet, the bicycle always loses. Motor vehicles are a leading cause of death in the US, with over 33,000 in 2012 alone. Yet nobody seems to act responsibly with a machine that, with one flick of the wrist, could end someone's life. It's like if everybody walked around with a gun in their hands, pointing it at everyone else. Then, when somebody gets shot, everyone says, well, why was he standing there in the first place? All of this has been on my mind after reading about a demonstration in Latvia where cyclists wore car-sized frames to demonstrate how much space a car takes up for a single person. I thought this was a cool idea because I'm a nerd and I love efficiency, and this demonstrates how much waste there is when using a car in congested traffic. Cool idea, pretty harmless. Then I read the comments section. I know. Internet comments are the favorite gathering place of narcissistic psychopaths so they can spew ignorant hate all over the place. But this one, and I'm specifically referencing the City Lab article linked below, had some comments that I think sadly line up with the general perception of cycling in the US. In general, there was a lot of discussion about how great cars are because they're faster and they can carry more with less effort. Some even mentioned that bicycle infrastructure and public transit is a waste of money because it's not as flexible and convenient as a car. I see this as the mindset of the people that don't understand how to share the road with me or care to learn. Some of these people even mentioned multiple times in an attempt to claim that bicycles were impractical. The vast majority of people don't live in dense, walkable places. Despite the fact that 54% of the world and 82.4% of the US population live in urban areas. That brings us to the really important part. When I was in school, one of my professors used to always say that the most difficult problem that my generation of engineers would have to solve is overpopulation. There are a ton of different aspects to this, but transportation is definitely one of them. Demonstrations like the one in Latvia help point out inefficiencies in the status quo. And if we aren't trying to improve, we're wasting our time. I'm certainly not suggesting that cars need to go away, and I'm not anti-car at all, but I am worried that attitudes which hinder our progress towards creating more efficient urban areas will cause major problems in the coming decades. This is not a hypothetical situation, it's just happening. If we can get more people on bikes and public transportation, we can safely and efficiently get a lot more people around using less space. There are even economic benefits to this. One study in San Francisco evaluated the different transportation methods on Polk Street, a popular area with lots of restaurants and shops, and it determined the amount of money spent per week for each different mode. While people who walked, rode a bike, used transit, or a car spent roughly the same amount per trip, those who did not use a car took more trips on average. So the average spending per week was much greater for every mode of transportation besides cars. I imagine there are a lot of other similar situations in other cities as well. And that's not even touching on the health benefits and addressing the obesity problem in the US. So here's what I want. A healthy, sustainable, urbanized future where we can support a lot more people than we have now. To do that, we need to work together as a team. I'm afraid that the urban areas are going to grow too fast and suburban residents are not going to be able to adapt. This could mean a lot more cyclists on the road and drivers that have no idea what to do. So cyclists, and I know a lot of you watching are in that group, please follow the rules and regulations that govern bicycle traffic. Don't be a jerk. Be an ambassador for all of us so that we can reduce the negative image that others seem to have of us. And drivers, take a second to contemplate the responsibility that you have in wielding a deadly weapon. Realize that in an instant, you could kill someone, even at 25 miles an hour. Pay attention and learn the laws in your area. Try to be accepting of non-car traffic. Take a deep breath and remember, those 30 seconds are not going to ruin your life. While this is only a very small portion of the overpopulation problem, it's something that doesn't take all that much effort to work on. Infrastructure costs money and all, but for now, a simple attitude change could make things a lot safer for all of us. Did I miss something? Let me know what you think about this in the comments. That's all. See you guys soon.